Okay, we're going to continue in this cycle of what we've been working on, for the past few weeks or whatever. And we're going to continue to talk about this concept of benevolence and how we can increase our benevolence, and then also how we decrease our benevolence. And so hopefully by the end of this conversation today, you'll understand how to manifest and bring forth your version of wealth at any given time in your life. Throughout our lives, we inadvertently obstruct the benevolence that is right there in front of us simply because of certain things that we do. And so what I wanted to do is kind of just show you how we do that, and then show us also how we can kind of overcome that to be better within ourselves. Okay, first of all, let's discuss benevolence. Now, the concept of benevolence is sometimes rendered as good. There are certain things that you may think is good for you that may actually be detrimental to your life success, that may be detrimental to your health and well-being, and so on. The concept of benevolence is rooted in the Latin word which means benefit. So benevolence typically means something that is beneficial to you, something that when you receive it, it increases your well-being and increases your opportunity to fulfill your life success. That's what we mean by benevolence. Now, if you look at the words benevolent, if you look at the word blessing and benefit, they all come from similar root words within the Latin dictionary that means benefit. So when you say, hey, I've been blessed, in actuality, you should be saying, I have experienced something that has increased me, that has put me in a position by which my well-being, my wealth has been increased, my life success has been increased. That's what we mean by benevolence. Good is something that appeals to your ego and may be quite detrimental to your life success. So things that you receive and give that causes a diminishment in your well-being, a diminishment in your potential to fulfill your life success. We use the term malevolence for this, or that situation was a malevolent situation. It decreased your potential. Most of the time what we render as good is actually in actuality malevolent. So when we talk about blessings and when we're talking about your ability to increase your benevolence, we're talking about things that are beneficial to you, that increases your well-being and life success, or your potential to manifest in that state. Now, we've all grown up in these Occidental religions, and one of the things that Occidental religions teach is that God has providence over the good that happens in man's life, and through our faith for God, we increase our benevolence. But in actuality, the ancient Egyptians taught us that, no, man and woman has providence over the good that happens in their lives. But you don't know it, or you don't carry yourself in your life with that understanding. Now, one thing I want you to understand is that the universe was a creation, was a manifestation of something that happened with Nebuchadnezzar. Nope, we don't say Nebuchadnezzar created the universe, because that would mean the universe is separate from Nebuchadnezzar. The universe is a manifestation of Nebuchadnezzar. The universe is built, its architecture, its framework is built upon benevolence. So every transaction that takes place within the universe is created and there to transact benevolence, to exchange benevolence as a currency. So therefore, you exist in the world by which your existence means that you are here to be benevolent to something else. And at the same time, there are other things that exist in your life that are simply there to provide you with benevolence. Because everything in the universe was created to manifest benevolence, was created to increase each other. The oxygen you breathe in increases you. The carbon dioxide you breathe out increases the universe, increases the earth. Everything that is created increases something else, is therefore to be benevolent to something else. The universe is based upon that. So the only entities that can experience malevolence is man and woman, because we are the only entities that will do things in the context of good. that is quite detrimental to ourselves. So any existence of malevolence is a creation of man and woman. The universe was not built to exist within states of malevolence. That's something that man and woman do to each other. Now we say self is never a chair functioning through the limitations of the mind. So we say that we are self, or we identify with self as an expression of never a chair functioning through the limitations of the mind. We are self. Self is the only thing that can experience benevolence. It's the only thing that can interact with benevolence. It is the only thing that can come about in a benevolent state. This consciousness we call self is transmitted in us as us through the vehicle of Ra. Now, Ra is the transmittance of the consciousness from the indivisible concept of Neber Chair. So therefore, all beings in the universe get a chance to experience being Neber Chair, because it is Neber Chair that is transmitting consciousness from the source. We said that Ra is light, so therefore self within us, the consciousness within us, is transmitted as light. So therefore the self within you has been transmitted to your mental through the vehicle of Ra. Now please bear with me, I'm going into a little bit more technicality than what I would like, but it's very important for me to set this up for you guys. So Ra is the unmanifested light that transmits consciousness to all things. Neber Chair is an indivisible reality that cannot be added to, cannot be subtracted from. But it relies on Ra to transmit its consciousness and its experience through the vehicles of man and woman, which are the highest expressions of such experience. So I want you to understand this concept of light transmitting within the mental as self, this unmanifested light as Ra, from which the Christians call the Holy Spirit, the Hindu call Shiva. That's why in the New Testament it says that the Holy Spirit is the Parakletos, and so on and so on. You know, Ra is the representative of Neber Chair in the world as transmitted through this light. So light is transmitted as self, and we just said that self is the only thing that can experience benevolence. So therefore, the light that exists in all things in the universe is the only thing that can give benevolence and experience benevolence. Light communicates to light through the currency of benevolence. And let me say that again. Light communicates to light through the currency of benevolence. So therefore, light exists at the core of any and all things, and these things we communicate to each other through the light. Even though, you know, the physical shell is there, we're communicating and transacting through the interaction of light, because light is the only thing that can experience benevolence. Light is the only thing that can experience benefit. So the concept of benevolence is simply a transaction of light. That's something I want you to understand. Now, light, the self, functions through the subconscious. So now we got to talk a little bit about the subconscious, right? What Freud called the id. So light now transacts through the subconscious. Light has to function through the subconscious in order for it to give or provide benevolence and receive benevolence. You know, interact with light and receive light. It must function through the subconscious. Now, the subconscious is structured in these impulsive vehicles the Hindu called chakras, all right, was metaphorically rendered as Oset. And Oset in ancient Egypt had 7 scorpions. So you got the 7 scorpions and the 7 chakras. Now, Oset was not directly talking about the chakra systems within the cell. She was talking about the conditioning of those chakras into emotional complexities or emotional impulses that we identify with. So your emotions of grief, worry, lust, fear, anger, resentment, revengefulness, arrogance, pride, all those different things are conditionings of the chakra system. Each chakra system has a potential to be conditioned to manifest in one of these emotional potentials. Now, I want to, again, just bear with me. I want to take my time with this because I want you to understand exactly what's going on, the mechanism of what I'm trying to say, so that you can understand this concept that you have providence over the good that is taking place in your life. And you have the ability to obstruct the good that can take place in your life. You have the ability to obstruct the wealth. Wealth could be right there in front of you, but it cannot get to you. So the subconscious can be conditioned into one of these emotional complexities, right? Now, since self, which is manifesting through light, is functioning through the subconscious, it is dependent upon the subconscious, the condition of the subconscious, for it to be able to interact with other light outside of itself. So when your subconscious is riddled with emotional complexities that you have given birth to, that you function through, that you identify with, your subconscious becomes very opaque. And therefore, it limits the light that can come in to be a blessing to you. And it limits the light that goes out, for which you will become a blessing to other things. When you have identified with these entities and given birth to these entities, your subconscious now becomes very opaque, and therefore you can't receive, neither give. But when you condition yourself in peace and happiness, your subconscious becomes very translucent. And now, not only can your light shine forth and help those that are destined to be helped by you, but you can receive the things that are necessary for your life success. So therefore, you can increase your blessings towards other people and increase the blessings that you receive through the conditioning of your subconscious. I want you just to think about that for a second. You see, you have given a home to these different emotions. You have identified with these emotions. You are quite comfortable with these emotions. See, that's why they said that the serpent is the most subtle beast in the field. You see, when your subconscious is programmed into these emotional impulses, right? Emotions are what? Energy in motion. These energies move in what we call waves. And since serpents move similar to waves, the ancient Egyptians used the serpent as a metaphor to define your conditionings. So therefore, the serpent Opep in ancient Egypt became the serpent that was a villain to Ra. Ra being the vehicle of light and transmitters of self through all things. But this Opep serpent character was very good at communicating with us and letting us know that it's okay to be angry because that other person is stupid. It's okay to be grief-stricken because you experienced such a great loss. It's okay to be lustful because there are so many fine women in the world, or fine men in the world. You know, it's okay to be worryful because there's so much unruliness in your neighborhood. It's okay to be arrogant because everybody else is so stupid and doesn't listen to you. You see, that serpent is so convincing that the way you feel is correct that you give a home to these things, not understanding that these things are literally putting you in the poorhouse, are literally preventing you from receiving the wealth that's right in front of you. As a matter of fact, I would challenge you to look at somebody, including yourself, somebody that's riddled with anger, somebody that has no problem. They're constantly in these states. And I would look at you and see if their life is full of wealth. I'm almost willing to bet that it's not. Because you have conditioned your subconscious into a state of opaqueness, if you will, by which the light can't get out, nor can it get in. And therefore, you're stuck in this perpetual expression of poverty. You see, the civilization that conquered you and taught you these things, they're very good. See, they taught you that money defines all things. So I can see you right now saying, well, wait a minute, Baba Rama, my friend is a very angry person and he's a millionaire. But see, you equate things as money, and that's what you've been trained to do. And see, yeah, that might happen for that person, but money is something that has no relevance in the scheme of the universe. It doesn't provide anything. See, a kale green is worth more than money because it provides you benevolence. As a matter of fact, all these people that call themselves rich, that money can be taken away from them at any time based on some flip of a switch because it's not really wealth. There's no money that's more valuable than food. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. My point of saying that is that you've been conditioned that way, so you think, oh, it's okay for me to be angry because you see other people who are angry, who are lustful, who are fearful, that may have a little money. But that's not how you should go about it. But the reason why you think that way is because of this. We've been trained for the last 2,000 years that there is some entity outside of us that has providence over the good that we experience. And that has conditioned us to neglect our subconscious. That entity that communicates to the universe, communicates to things, even when we're asleep. So most of y'all will say that, hey, I don't follow religion. But your mind has been conditioned to follow religion because your mind has been shaped to think a certain way as a result of being within a religion, even though you may not follow that religion right now. You see, I've seen people who consider themselves, who say, I'm not a Christian, I'm not in Islam, but I know God has a plan for me. Then no, you just basically said that, no, you are in a religion because you think according to the same paradigm that's taught in religion, and you should find a church or a mosque and go and pay tithes to them people because regardless of whether you show up there or not, you have been conditioned inadvertently to be a part of these realities. You know, when you see somebody who eats garbage food and then prays to something else to prevent them from being sick, it's the very same thing that happens to you when you allow yourself, you identify with being resentful, you identify with being angry, you identify with being grief-stricken, you identify with being lustful, but then hope that your money will increase. Hope that your well-being will be increased. Hope that your life success would be increased when it's almost impossible because the light within you is eclipsed and neither can you receive the light. So you're inadvertently praying to these quote-unquote gods even though you don't want to. But the serpent has convinced you, OPEP has convinced you that it's quite all right for you to feel this way. It's all right for you to be lustful. It's all right for you to be worryful. It's all right for you to be grief-stricken. It's all right. You are a human. And it's okay for you to stay in these states. But if you notice, when you stay in these states, guess what? Your money goes down. Your relationships go down. Your life success goes down. Your career goes down. Because you don't understand these concepts. Let's go to, and let's look at what the Mahasar says about this. It says the benefit, the benevolence, the good is the light you receive and the light you give. So I want you to understand that. Your blessings. Now, what is a blessing? A blessing is something that you receive when you need it, right? That's why we say in ancient, the abundance is what? Receiving what you need when you need it. That's a blessing. That's abundance. Whenever you have what you need when you need it, your life is in abundance. And that doesn't necessarily have to mean money. You see, when we say the universe is created on an architecture, a structure of benevolence, we're saying that any and all things that you need is there for you. You know, you hear women saying, oh, there's no good men out there. No, that's not the case. There's always a man presented to you that's good for you. Ask that very same woman how many men that she's turned down because they don't fit her type. You see, the concept of benevolence is the benefit that you get is the light you give and the light you receive. If you're not given light, if you're not receiving light, then you cannot be blessed. You cannot be in a state of benevolence. That's your own fault. But the universe was created to provide for you. And since we're saying that you have providence over the good and bad that you receive, yes, you have providence over conditioning your spirit to receive. If you have taken on ownership of these emotional complexities, then you are the source of your own malevolence. I have yet to meet a woman that has not been able to find a date, that has not been able to find somebody that actually wants to be with them. The problem is that they say that these people aren't good for them. Why? Because they are protected from the light, or the light is not able to shine forth and receive. They have these conditionings about them that defines how they look at other men, and therefore as a result they're not able to receive when we have this beneficial element right there in front of them. You know, some people say, oh, well, you know, Rama, when you say something to him, he listens, but when I say something to them, they don't listen. Yes, because your words are communicating ahead of your light. No, it is the light that enriches, that redeems, that saves. A person can be the most resentful person in the world, but then try to teach others. And then figure out, why doesn't anybody listen to me? Well, the reason why people don't listen to you is because you're not transmitting light. You're not transmitting in the currency of light. People want to get paid light. They don't want to get paid darkness. So even though you may say a word, that word is not backed by the universal currency of that golden aura, that light that transmits ahead of you. But then you got other people that don't have to say anything and have an influence over people. That's because their light is traveling beyond their words. It goes on to say in the Mahasa, there's only one entity that can experience benevolence, that is self manifested in all of us as Ari. Every existence in your life, every moment, every existence, every moment in your life, you're either the receiver of light or the provider of light. Okay? So every moment that you exist, that you breathe in air, you are experiencing benevolence. Every breath that you take in, you're experiencing benevolence. Every breath that you breathe out, you're experiencing benevolence. Every interaction with other people in the world, you're experiencing benevolence. You're either providing the light for somebody else or you're receiving the light. That is what's creating the concept of your abundance. If you're not a good receiver of light, then you're not going to be abundant. If you're not a good giver of light, then you're not going to be abundant. These concepts you have to take into the mind and understand. You're always giving and receiving in your interactions. This concept is based upon sacrifice. So let's go ahead and close with what we want to talk about today. This concept of sacrifice. The concept that God as the provider. Now just listen to what happened here. God that has providence over the good in your life. God sacrificed his only begotten child, Jesus, so that you may live in benevolence for the rest of your life. All they did was took the comedic story and turned it into a God situation. You must sacrifice your only begotten child so that you can not only provide light for others that are destined to experience your light, but you also must sacrifice your child so that you can receive the light you want, so that you can reach your maximum potential. And so that takes sacrifice. When we are willing to sacrifice to provide light for someone else, we call that a caring or caregiver. When you sacrifice to receive the light from someone else, we call that respect. When you are caring for others and respectful of others, you are in the highest state of translucence, and therefore you are in the highest state of abundance. You're in a position by which you can receive. We call that respect. We're in a position by which you can give. We call that caring. Now you're providing for others. We are all relative expressions of haves and have-nots. We all have our own version of what we have. We all have our own version of what we don't have. We're all various expressions of these things. But when we interact in a caring way, we give what we have to somebody else through light. When we interact in a respectful way, we receive what somebody else has to give to uplift us beyond our have-nots. And that's the experience of life. You have to be willing to sacrifice your only begotten child, these conditionings that you allowed the serpent to influence you with. You have to be willing to sacrifice these things to bring yourself into a state of benevolence. You have to be willing to give up these things that you have given a home to, no matter how negative you feel. No matter how justified you feel that you lost a relative and you're justified in grieving for 2 years. No, you're not justified in that. That is creating darkness. That is creating an opaque existence around you that is preventing you from achieving your highest standard. You have to let that go. You have to sacrifice that. You know, one of the stories in ancient Egypt, you know, one of Osset scorpions, right? We're talking about these emotional impulses of the subconscious, right? One of her scorpions killed her son, Heru. All right. And so Ra had to come in and, you know, and call on Serket to, you know, heal him from the scorpions thing and bring him back to life. But that's just a metaphor of how we can destroy, we can completely obstruct the good within us, the benevolence within us, through identifying with these conditionings. You find yourself spending more time in resentment than peace and happiness. You find yourself spending more time in lust than peace and happiness. You find yourself spending more time in, you know, grief than peace and happiness. And then you try to figure out, why am I not getting ahead in life? Then you start making stupid statements like, there's no good men out there. There's no good women. No, there's good men right in front of you. You're just choosing not to acquiesce because you are shunning the light within you. We sacrifice to bring our spirit into a state of translucence, to bring ourselves into a position by which we can receive and give. You cannot receive unless you're given. At the same time, you cannot give unless you're receiving. It takes both of those things to bring you into a state of abundance.